Recently, I bought an entire HO scale BART train as a kit from a train show for $50. These are the older Walthers ones, not anything like the new Rapido train, so they aren't going to be that high of quality, but I still thought it would be fun to build at least two of these pieces of the kit on camera. I plan on building one of the dummy cars and one of the powered cars, and I'll do a little bit of a mix-up from what we're supposed to be doing, but that'll come later on. And I'll show you in just a second, but I've already built a few of these as practice. Just so I know exactly what I'm doing, I actually have been working on these guys. First off, I built this one powered car. This is one of the cab cars, as you can pretty clearly see, and I built one of the coaches. As you can see, I've done a few modifications to them. We'll get into that. There's some stuff I've omitted, some stuff I've added, but again, as we build the other kits, we'll go further into what I've done differently. Also of note, I will not be putting decals on these cars, nor will I be adding all the proper weight, because I've got new weights on the way. I don't want to use the ones these things actually came with, and I just want these things to be good. The stuff I have for decals, microsol and microset, is also on the way, so I'll do that off camera in the future, but I thought it would be fun, even without decals or any perfect weighting or anything, just to get this entire consist built up. First off, I'll actually be starting with one of the powered cars. Excluding the windows, I just went in and cut out all the pieces I will need. A lot of these are actually not going to be used. These are connectors to connect the cars together. I've got something else I'm going to be using, and a lot of these are just other bits and bobs that these BART cars don't actually need. So most of this is just junk and will be getting thrown out or thrown in my parts bin. For this car, I'm going to start with the chassis of it. There's only two detail pieces these cars actually need to have applied. This piece goes right here, and this piece goes right back here. It's just a little bit of plastic cement, so I'll glue these things into place, and then I will come back once they dry. While it's drying, I'm going to jump just a little bit ahead and throw in the motor for this drive unit. This thing is really simple. This is the only actual piece of drivetrain that's in it, so all that has to be done is I just need to flip the thing over, slot in the screw. I actually think I might have to file this down, so once I do that, I'll be back and we can screw this truck into the locomotive. Next, I get to install this rear truck. Well, it does not look like it. These things should actually be metal. This side specifically will actually pick up power, so it's got a little bit of a wiper. This will actually help if I want to put DCC in this thing in the future, as that might actually be a really complicated process with the way these motors are designed. But all I've got to do, now that these wheels are in here, is I get to flip this thing back over, just sort of hover that there, and then I just screw this one screw into place, and then we should have some wheels on this car. Well, I said I was not going to be using any of the weights these cars came with. I sort of lied. I'm going to be using this pretty heavy weight to go on at least the powered piece of equipment. These things, the weight will definitely help out since it's going to be a fairly long train when it's all said and done. So I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue and then I'll tack this weight into place. Alright, and while that's drying, now we can work on the actual cab end of the car itself. First of which we need to put in windows. I've cut out, well, windows and lights. You can sort of call these lights, that's what the thing calls them, but they're the same material and same process as putting in the windows. We've got this large one that goes right here, these two little side windows, sort of like in a car, that go right there, and then the headlights which go right down there. I'm just going to show you putting in this one piece. These ones are kind of difficult, especially the little ones in here. So all I'm going to do is tack it like that with a little bit of plastic cement. I'm going to try and not get too much on the window. It's pretty easy to clean off, at least I've found. But overall, I just don't want to have to deal with that process, so it'll get a little bit on it. I can clean it off pretty easily, though. So now I'll let that dry, and then I'll reinstall the rest of the windows, because it's kind of a boring process that you probably don't want to see me deal with. Next up is the rear end of the car. All we really have here is a window and a diaphragm. I'm going to glue the diaphragm on first. These things are not that crazy difficult. You just have to use enough plastic cement on them. Otherwise, they don't really seem to hold with the other two cars I've tried. And now while that's drying, we can just sort of throw in this one window. It's not really difficult. This is a much easier style of window to get in than the other one. And then we can use a little bit of plastic cement to hold that one into place. And now, just like the other end of the car, we can let this one dry. Now, while those dry, I'm just going to throw the windows in the car itself. This is one of the more tedious parts of this whole thing. And again, it's just the exact same process as I showed with the end of the car and the cab of the locomotive. So I'm going to get that all done off camera, and then we'll return once this is dry and we can go work on something else. Now that all the windows are in the BART car, there is one final step I need to take. I need to glue this piece onto here like so with a little bit of plastic cement. This is just how you're able to screw the front of the shell into the chassis of the locomotive, and the back of the engine does not need this. It's got its own sort of adapter that works with the screws this thing came with. So I'm just going to use a little bit of plastic cement right on here, and then I've just got to be very careful with lining this one up so I actually get it correct. I'd rather not have it off by a little bit because it'll bug me if I do. And I think that was just about perfect first try. I might need to just slightly move it over a hair. Let's see. It's off a little bit more than I would like. I think right there is just about perfect. So I'm going to reinforce this on the sides with just a little bit more. And now this piece can set aside to dry. And then once everything is completely and fully cured, we can put this whole shell together. Alright, so now that all of our cosmetic components are dry, we can just throw these ends of the car on. It's really not all that difficult. All they do is slot right in here. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of maneuvering to get them actually into position. And then all you've got to do is line the seams with some plastic cement. Perfect. Now I'll take a brief break and let that dry, and then we can glue on the other end of the car. Now that the other end is dry enough, we can glue the other end of the car on. This one is actually a little bit simpler because there's not really a ton of stuff to work around. It's really easy to get glue on all the seams, and it's just a really simple job. Once again, I just need to cover it in some plastic cement. And now I'm just going to hold this in place a few seconds, let this thing dry, then I'll take a break, we'll work on the other one, and we can throw both of these things together. For the sake of time, and to not bore all of you, I'm going to build the middle car off camera, but I just want to show you some of the minor differences between these things because they are really similar with a few small changes. The frame on this one is just a little bit different. Both ends of the car are exactly like the way the dummy truck screwed in. It's just these sort of things instead of the weird design the original powered unit front truck had. They just screw in exactly the same. Instead of one of the powered trucks, you've just got two of these. Both of them actually include two of these dummy trucks because it's probably easier for Walthers to just throw in this package, or at least was when they were still producing these things. So it makes a little bit of sense that way. And it also makes sense why there's some extra pieces we don't really need with the ends of the cars, since, as you can see, there's two of them here, and two of them both have these things, which, as you saw in the other clip, we don't really need. They're already built onto, like, I guess you can call it this scaffolding, whatever this plastic like bar thing is that holds these parts on. They build it in the factory with these on, so it just makes sense again to throw two of these in. So it's kind of a weird design. The same thing also goes for the windows. Even though they don't have the actual cab unit, they still have the windows for the cab unit in there. And it's kind of weird. One of the windows, the main one that goes for the center cab, just goes straight in here. They didn't include two of the windows for the end of the car, which is weird. Which I guess you don't really see them. It's not a huge deal, but it's just a minor odd difference that these things have. But other than that, these are essentially the same process. So I'm just going to build this one along with the other unpowered car that I haven't built, and then I'll return when this one in particular is done. It's now sometime later, and both of these mid-train cars are put together. This one I've already done everything to, and this one is just about prepared for us to go into the final step. I do want to note, though, that both of these cars have some blemishes. This one came out of the box with just this kind of little paint blemish right here. I think it's perfectly fine, and I can live with that. It just looks like a little bit of wear and tear, which a lot of these things in real life did have before BART got rid of them. And another one was sort of caused by me. This area, this windowsill was actually cracked out of the box, and it leaked just a little bit of plastic cement, so I kind of cleaned it up. And again, from a distance, I think this just kind of looks like normal weathering. I was originally going to try and paint it, but I kind of decided that it sort of fits the theme of BART. I could do a little bit of weathering overall to these cars, but again, this is a $50 BART train. They're not going to be perfect, so I can live with these little blemishes. Now it's finally time to attach the shells to the respective chassis. And what I'm actually going to do is not how these things came packaged. I'm going to put this powered chassis underneath this mid-train car, and I'm going to put the dummy chassis underneath the end car. The reason I'm going to do this is the layouts I'm going to run on and the times I'm going to use this train, it's always just going to be in one direction. If I was doing push-pull, I'd have this thing powered, but it makes more sense for the one powered cab car to be at the front, followed by a powered mid-train car, at least to me. I also plan on putting decoders in these things at some point, so if I do want to do that, it'll be a lot easier if I have this and the powered lead car close together. It'll just make wiring and stuff a lot easier and a lot more manageable. So now it's time to screw these into place. I've got all the screws just off to the side, and it's not going to be anything crazy. These things are sometimes a little bit temperamental to get in place just because I need to adjust them correctly, just to be on the safe side. Alright, I'm just gonna finish screwing this in on camera, off camera, because I think you get the idea. And now that they're all together, we can work on the final step, the coupling. I'm going to eventually use Katie's on these things instead of the original weird connectors they came with, but for now I've just got coupler boxes made up with some Easy Mates because I'm sort of out of Katie's right now. Again, I'm gonna put Katie's on them in the future, but for now this is what I've got laying around. I've got enough Katie's for some of my nicer equipment, but this one's sort of a lower priority, so it'll get these guys. And I'm just going to place them on the end of each car, sort of like so. And I've tested with some other pieces, and for the most part, the coupler height, or coupler gap at least, seems pretty good. Set that guy off to the side to dry, and we just do the exact same thing with this car. And now I'm just going to let these guys dry, and we'll come back once the whole train is complete. Now that the full BART train is complete, it's time to give it a few warm-up laps. I know that on the wheel sets of the powered units, the wheels are a little bit warped, so it might sound like there's a thud or click. It's not a cracked gear or anything, it's just kind of some odd shaping of the wheels. It's nothing incredibly concerning and nothing that I can easily fix. So, even though this thing doesn't have decals or anything, it's time to give it a test run. Something else to note is that this thing's sort of slipping a little bit, and a weird phenomena I found with these cars is that some weight will actually help them. So once I get some new wheel weights in and can weight these things properly, I think this should actually run a lot smoother and it should drag a lot less. I don't know why it does that. It was just something I found when I was messing with and building the cars. So that means this thing should hopefully be just about good to go. It still needs decals and whatnot, but this whole train, the kits, all of the major work is done.